Green makes the catch.
Oh, man!
A deflected ball winds up in the hands of A.J. Green as the clock hits 0. A 52-yard. 23-year-old Tony Pike waits for the snap, has the football, short drop, lobs one down the sideline for Binns. He's got it! Touchdown! Touchdown! Touchdown!
And a high fly ball way back in center field. It is out of here. A grand slam home run for Joey Votto. And this one belongs to the Reds.
You have your shirt on?
Last I checked, I did. Yes, what?
Just curious. Now a steal by Gary Clark and a breakaway to the rim for a thunderous tomahawk jam.
Get you one, big fella. Then a strike for Bertoni, and the magical moment belongs to Leonardo Bertoni. He opens the FC Cincinnati account with a goal in the 14th minute. Yeah, double dip on the ice cream cone.
Welcome back. It is 2021. Ladies and gentlemen, we have left 2020 in the rear view. We are moving on.
Are we?
2021. Well, we got to. I mean, we tried to leave as much of the bullshit back in 2020 as we could. Unfortunately, when you do that, you leave other things back unintentionally, like winning football games.
Oh, we're going to start with that.
You're right there, huh?
So, gentlemen, how was your New Year?
It's good. Good. Hung out with the kids and the wife, and kept it small. They all the kids made it to midnight. Well, the oldest made it to midnight. The other two woke up literally like 20 seconds, like as they were starting the countdown for the ball. Ball dropped. The two youngest ones went back to bed. And my oldest one was running around like a crazy person. So
I didn't even drink. That's maybe the first year, and I don't know how long that I didn't even drink.
I watched Below Deck all night.
what is that?
Oh, it's great. You should check it out.
Fantastic.
I don't know that I want to know what that is.
It's actually really good, believe it or not. The UNLV quarterback was on this season, and he got in trouble for him and his group of friends going on board the ship and eating sushi off a naked model's body.
What?
She was partially naked. Yeah.
Well, because she was covered in sushi.
Is it?
Yeah.
Is it like a reality show?
Yeah.
About boats?
About a super yacht.
Oh.
You should check it out.
While we are throwing out plugs, did want to say you can check us out at PTP Podcast Cincy. You can check us out on Facebook at Pardon the Punctuation. We also have the Bearcat Nation Facebook group there. You can also check out our website, which is WordPress.ptpcincy.com, I believe.
Yeah, I got it wrong. ptpcincy.wordpress.com.
All right. So
Close enough. Be better, Aaron.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Want to get out there. Also, something about Ed15 for beard butter or something. Right?
Oh, yeah. We'll
Beard jelly.
We'll put the banner down below. Check out Bossman Brands. Go to our website. Enter Ed15 to get 15% off. I got a new camera, so I don't know where it's at. There goes some beard jelly or whatever your beard grooming needs are.
Have you been using a lot of that, Ed? Your beard looks amazing.
Thank you. I have been. This has been great.
I just want to get all of that out of the way before we had to worry about it at the end with a whole bunch of filler.
It makes sense.
So, getting back into what was the last game of the Cincinnati Bearcats 2020 football season. I did want to point out, though, guys, you see the shirt? See the shirt?
That's a nice shirt.
Yeah, where'd you get that?
It was a Christmas present. It came from Santa.
Ooh. Hey, look at you see the shirt that came from Santa? From the authentic Bauer jersey. Cy Young winner.
Mine says conference champions.
Well, nice.
My wife made me this shirt.
The Riggins Rigs. I saw you tweeted that out, didn't you, Ed?
Yeah. I designed it. She printed it.
Did you design it, or did you steal the design from somebody on the internet and then print it off?
No, I designed it. Thank you.
So, wanted to touch on the fact that since the last time that we talked, we did win the conference
Mhm.
against Tulsa
In the rain, in the cold.
as we kicked a field goal as the clock expired. And maybe the best moment of that entire game was after the game when Desmond Ritter was being interviewed and crying, and Mo Bamba was playing in the background. It was pretty fantastic.
I'm sad because I didn't even hear Mo Bamba.
Hmm?
I didn't even hear Mo Bamba.
Oh, that's if you saw the video on Twitter, it was everywhere, man.
I know.
But then we played in Atlanta in the Georgia Dome against the Georgia Bulldogs, which, let's be honest, that was essentially a home game for Georgia.
Right.
Athens is a stone's throw away from Atlanta.
But I mean, just our home games, are they really a home game? I mean, do you get the same? You know what I mean? Like, I felt
a certain capacity. I mean, they got what, like 25% or something, 20%.
I mean, were they? I think they let like 18,000 fans in there, and I mean, honestly, on TV, it sounded like there were quite a few UC fans there.
And I don't know if you saw the videos circulating on the interwebs where
In the hotel.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. Doing down the drive.
I feel like that hotel. I feel like that hotel pops up for like a lot of sporting events or like different things where people are in there singing in that hotel, like just ran like. I don't know. It was pretty cool though.
So we did lose the game, as everybody knows. It's been a couple days now. That's not really a spoiler alert or anything. It was 24-21 as Georgia came back late in the game, and they took the game from us. A game that we controlled almost the whole game. So
yeah, I would say dominated.
I mean,
at least our.
I don't think you can say dominated if you didn't win the game.
I mean, up until okay, yeah,
3/4 of the game, sure.
Yeah. Before Georgia turned the tide, I mean, it came back and took it. Which credit to them. I mean, it was a hell of a game.
My favorite part about it is the fact that I wanted them to look like they belonged in the game. The AAC had been embarrassed, looking at Tulane in their bowl game, looking at UCF against BYU. That was Tulsa lost. Memphis is the only one who won a bowl game as they beat FAU. Tulsa lost to 3-7 Mississippi State, which I know it's an SEC school, but you can't lose that game and hope to be mentioned in the conversation with teams that look like they belong. So
I mean, you can't be toting around a Power 6 banner when that's happening.
But that was what I wanted to see from Cincinnati. As a lot of people were talking about maybe we belonged in the championship, maybe we belong in the conversation for a top 10 team, and a lot of people were discrediting it, saying, "Oh, the wins don't mean anything because it's the AAC, it's the American, nobody cares, blah blah blah. The Group of 5, not Power 5." We've heard it all before. Same song and dance we hear about any team that tries to make an impression on anybody in the Power 5. And Cincinnati looked like they belonged.
I don't think there's any other argument than that. I mean, if somebody can put together an argument that says that UC didn't belong in that game, or even, I mean, and then when you look at like what the semifinals gave us, and you kind of knew it was, well, I take that back. The Ohio State Clemson game, I did not expect to go the way that it did.
It went sideways quick.
I expected it to be a competitive game. It turned out it wasn't. The other game, and I'm a Notre Dame fan, like I just am, and I think we all knew where that was going to end up.
Yep.
And
I don't know. I mean, I don't want to get on this topic for very long.
Right.
At all.
No.
But I did want to say there's something to be said for the fact that, I don't know, Ohio State only played 6 games and they were fresher than Clemson, who had played double-digit games, so you don't have the injuries, you don't have the fatigue of a season because you only played half a season. So
I mean,
I don't know, I mean,
that's true, but I don't know that was the difference. I mean, they went out there and flat out
but you don't
took
think
them behind the old woodshed.
I mean, but you don't think that there would have potentially been a difference had you played 4 more games? Maybe you have some injuries that Clemson had to go through, and
I mean, were there really any? I mean, it's not like either team was facing any opt outs, right?
I mean,
Couple.
again,
There were
just,
opt outs in that game.
I don't know.
I
That
thought it was 1 or 2.
it wasn't anything super significant.
The water boy or something?
No, there were some backups. I think, honestly, I think it was some backups. I don't know. I mean, again, I'm not necessarily trying to make an excuse. I'm just trying to bring something else to the conversation.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
In the sense that, you know, there is a difference between a team that having their legs under them. I mean, you see when a player comes back or a team comes back that's had some time off compared to a team like in the NBA when you go back to back nights, as opposed to, you know, playing one game, having a day, 2, sometimes 3 days off, and then playing a game. Like, it's just different energy levels.
No, I mean, I agree with that as well. I mean,
I also say that the UC game was probably the best game of the whole day on TV too. So
it might have been the best game of the whole bowl season, to be completely honest. I mean, it took a 53-yard field goal
like
late in the game. Kids got a leg.
And let me put this out there. And I'm sure some people who follow me on Twitter or whatever saw, but I replied to there was a fan that was like, "Oh, it was a lucky kick." That kick is good from like 57.
That kid walked out with so much swag. When he walked out to go kick the ball, he looked as confident as you could possibly look in that situation. And it was his very first game-winning field goal.
Right.
In his career.
And he had just kicked his career long of 51, I think the week before or the game before.
You can't tell me too that like you possibly had the shank of the punt earlier, and I know he's not the punter. Don't get me wrong.
But that's got to be in his head.
Right, you can see how quickly like the.
And
I
want to say he's like a sophomore.
I think the punter was an All-American.
And that was a cold hard shank.
I mean, it ended up being like a net yard 2.
Podlesny is the.
I wonder if he's any relation to Paul Podlesny, the linebacker. He was a linebacker out of Boston College the same time that the kid from St. X was there, Luke.
oh, yeah.
So that kid's a redshirt sophomore.
The kicker.
I mean, to walk out there like that on that stage. I mean, and let's be honest, perfect conditions because you're inside.
Sure.
But then I bring up the Notre Dame kicker had perfect conditions inside.
We missed the kick
and pulled one left and low. It was like and short.
Our kick was blocked, but we missed the kick. Like again, these things start to build up in your head. I would think.
And you see,
the shank, and you see UC missed one, so you're like.
So basically, what I'm getting at is when I saw somebody say, you know, oh, we lost on a lucky kick. It wasn't a lucky kick. No, I mean, the kid buried it.
Balls of steel.
And I mean that's all you can say about it. I mean, what can you look at it and be like, well, they shouldn't have had that much time left at the end.
There's an argument to be made for that.
And there are. I mean, I think when you look back at it, and you got to say like, there's a couple times Ritter snaps the ball with 10, 11 seconds left on the play clock.
So
I mean,
I brought this up last night on my other show, which you guys can feel free to check that out anytime you want at www.bearcatjournal.com. It's the Bearcat Bounce podcast. But no, I did.
Sometimes he has internet connection for that too.
It's fine. Well, don't jinx it. So I brought it up last night, though. One of the issues that I had with the entire way that the second half was played by Cincinnati's offense is the fact that we didn't run the ball.
No.
really anything after Jerome Ford breaks off a 79-yard touchdown run. So I don't know. I mean, and I know that Georgia, that was apparently the longest kick that they'd had in like since 2003, I believe it was.
Longest kick
Or I'm sorry, longest run that they
were I think they were the top rated run defense, or the top three, like in the top three in run defense. So like
they're also in the top 3 for every year for the last 4 years in recruiting class.
Yeah. No, I mean, when it comes back down to your original point, it sucks that we lost. I mean, obviously nobody is looking for a moral victory, especially anybody on that team. They're not, I mean, they didn't come back home and say, "Well, guys, we really showed them that, you know, we can compete." Right. I don't think that came out of anybody's mouth. But the other thing that I didn't see it all on Twitter. I didn't see any excuses. I didn't see anybody like pointing fingers at anybody else on the team, which, I mean, I guess maybe you don't see that as much in college football.
There were some coming from Georgia because they were still trying to play up the fact that they had so many players opt out. However, looking at how many players you had opt out by comparison with, and I go back to the recruiting point with this, Cincinnati had 2 All-Americans that couldn't play.
That was never mentioned on the broadcast.
That the 2 All-Americans were sitting?
They just said, James Wiggins isn't playing today. He's hurt. And then they're like, Sauce hasn't taken I don't know if I don't even think did he come on? I think he had back spasms from the start.
He had them during warmups.
So, like you got 2 All-Americans in your secondary that aren't playing. Now, granted, the kids that filled in, great job.
They played a hell of a game.
But I don't think those couple long passes early on in the game happen with Wiggins and Sauce back there.
Wiggins and Sauce back there. Absolutely.
Right? So, okay. So you guys didn't have any. And then we've got the only other underclassman ever to declare for the NFL draft.
Making the worst bonehead play probably.
In Mr. Hudson.
Probably the worst bonehead play in all of Cincinnati's history.
College, you mean?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I mean, probably, and maybe there have been others. It's just this one is on the biggest stage that UC's had in a long time with a chance to do something. And
his blindside tackle.
And okay, so like, I'm not a fan of the targeting penalty. I know a lot of people are not a fan of it. I'm not, at least the punishment that comes along with it, right? Because like, there's a lot of like crazy things you can do, and they just call it an unsportsmanlike penalty, and then they're like, "Oh, that's number 55's first one of the day," and then you get another one, and they boot you out. What he did, what was dumb, right? But there was, to me, it didn't look like there was an intent to like.
His head was down. I don't think he realized the play was over, and he shouldn't have led with the crown. So yes, he did get the targeting call, but this is what the NCAA does to make itself feel better. Like. We're combating concussions here because we remove kids from the game.
But every time a running back has the ball and lowers his head to grab 3, 4, 5 more yards, have you ever seen an offensive player flagged for it?
Now you're just talking sense. Don't do that. This is how they sleep at night, Jeff.
It's a football move.
This is how the NCAA sleeps at night.
I mean,
we fought against.
It's the most bizarre thing ever.
We fought against concussions because we remove kids who target. We can't have a Ryan Shazier play happen.
They did.
We removed them.
And that one, I mean, that was the Clemson game.
Yeah.
That Skalski or whatever, he puts his head up. But if Ryan, or if Fields isn't spinning, I don't think he connects with his helmet. I mean, I get it. Like you're not supposed to tackle with your head down like that anyway, but
I don't know. I mean, I understand that you think the punishment doesn't fit the crime, and I get that. Unfortunately, it is the rules, so you got to play. You got to play within the rules. So I mean, if you're not doing whatever the hell you're trying to do over on the sidelines, like that,
I mean, the
whistle had been blown.
Yeah, and it was a great pickup right before. I mean, like it was.
One of my takes
was that was a first down. There was a first down there before the penalty. Yeah,
correct.
Right. One of my takeaways after that though is the team didn't quit.
No,
They marched at that point and then managed to score in the waning seconds of the first half
with an amazing
incredible pitch and catch to Josh Wiley.
Oh yeah, with a little dive right there and picking it up right on the goal line.
Yeah.
So I mean, you've got that. Like you said, the team didn't quit, and then
you also saw Hudson on the sidelines after that throughout the rest of the game because you're no longer removed from the game. You do get to stay on the sidelines.
Didn't hang his head.
Doing his best to actually coach up Metz, who was his replacement.
And let me point out, on Jerome Ford's 79-yard run, Metz blew that hole wide open.
Which is why I'm still frustrated that you have a man mountain who's 6'9", like 350, and you didn't run the ball more when his skill set is to run the ball. I know people on Twitter love to bring up there were 10 seconds, 12 seconds, 14 seconds, whatever the hell it was when we were snapping the ball because we were worried.
Should have been able to get 2 yards there.
Well, we were worried about getting more false start calls. But if you're worried about getting those false start calls, if you're worried about, well, we didn't let more clock run off when we could have, then just run the ball. Run the damn ball.
I mean, I agree with that too.
If you don't get any yardage, at least you just ran clock.
And Metz was doing pretty good right before the half, and just the second half is when he started making the false starts and all that good stuff. So,
yeah, I mean, and you're going to have that. I mean, you got a guy pressed into a position that he probably shouldn't have been pressed into. He didn't, have to be pressed into. Wasn't expected to be pressed into coming into the game, but he did. And I mean, he was serviceable over there. He did make couple false starts, probably 4, I think.
Yeah, he certainly had some penalties, but
I mean,
that with him filling in, with a backup center filling in, who honestly,
I forgot Renfro was out.
Renfro was out, so the original starter from the beginning of the season was back in because Renfro took over, I think, in like the 3rd or 4th game of the season. We were
as a true freshman.
Correct. We were also missing Jared Doak, so Ford stepped into that role very well, obviously.
That's a shame. You have to go get a kid that was at Alabama to step in, right? I mean, but those are the kinds of things you can say about UC football right now.
Because it's grown tremendously since one Senator Tommy Tuberville is gone. Long gone. And, Luke Fickell has certainly put his stamp on the program. I mean, you can talk about before we move on from the game, I do want to bring up, we brought up the second half. We brought up the Jerome Ford run. We brought up the clock management as far as snapping the ball and the false starts and what have you. That 3rd and 2 play, though, what were your thoughts on that 3rd and 2 play?
I mean, I didn't like it. I think, here's, I mean, I get it. Like everybody in the world expects you to run there.
I don't know that they did because we hadn't run the ball really at all the entire season.
I know, but I still think when you're looking at
it was
3rd and 2
RPO, though. It was a designed RPO.
You don't have. You're trying to run the clock out. Georgia has already burned all of their timeouts. They can't stop the clock, right? So, thought process across any football mind, right, is run the ball, and even if you get stopped, you've burned off, what is it, 30 seconds of the, and then putting the ball back in, and then you can run it down and punt it, and you're under a minute. That you're punting back, leaving less than a minute, right? Is that fair? I mean, like that's what everybody thinks you're going to do. So you put this play on, and I know Ritter said afterwards, like if he delivers the ball with a little less air under it, a little zippier, it's probably there. If he makes that connection, it's, I mean, game over, right? I kind of likened it back to when Seattle didn't run the ball
on the goal line,
right? I mean, that was kind of like
Marshawn Lynch, and you're trying to get Russell Wilson the MVP. I mean, I don't know that there's any other reasoning. Even, I mean,
it's kind of like it was kind of like that for me, but. The other thing is, like, I think that this coaching staff and this team has earned the right to make a call that they think is right and is the best call for them to make at that time, and you live and die by it. And
so,
I mean, I didn't see any of the coaching staff making any kind of excuses or we screwed.
From what I understand with the connections that I have, and trying very hard not to bring up my podcast last night, but it was brought to my attention that play call that they called was never really intended to be a pass. It is a run pass option, but it was never intended to be a pass. It was intended to be a run. However, you had Michael Young streaking wide open, and Dez puts a little too much touch on the ball. And
the kid from Georgia made a play.
Man, he was fast.
He broke off his coverage and made a play. I mean,
he was covering Josh Wiley on the under route.
Yeah.
And he broke on that play so quickly.
I mean, he made the play. He jumped. He didn't. If I recall correctly, the ball hit him right in the back of the helmet.
Yeah, his arms were up in the air. He was just trying to put a body on the man.
But he didn't touch him.
Nope.
So you're not going to get the flag.
Super clean.
It was clean. You know.
And that was a linebacker.
I mean, it's just shoulda, woulda, couldas, but you're not going to see any. You're not going to see anybody, and you haven't seen anybody. Now it's been 4 days. And we haven't seen anybody come out and say, "Oh, like that should have been pass interference," or the refs screwed this up. I thought the refs called a great game. It's agree. Nice having a quality set of intelligent referees out on the field.
I also saw that game had more viewers. I think I saw that on Twitter tonight as we were.
It was like
8 million,
8.311 million or something. It was like the 7th most watched game or something
in history.
I think it's 7th most watched game of the entire football season.
Okay, it was the highest of the CFP. That much I do know. Higher than the Ohio State game or the Alabama game, I believe. So there's something to be said for that, though. I mean, I hope that the people who are running P5 conferences that keep bringing in, I don't know, a Rutgers and a Maryland for the purposes of TV viewers and ratings can see that this team travels well.
Well, I think if you looked up in the stands, I mean, I get it. The place couldn't sell out.
Go back to the Sugar Bowl or the
absolutely
the Orange Bowl. Like, we travel well. I don't think that you can really contest that.
I mean, you have an and I think a lot of that comes with, obviously, like, you see probably. I mean, if somebody's out there that knows better, correct me if I'm wrong, probably hasn't traveled well for their football team for a long time. But what you've got is, you have, the Pike to Benz era, right? Of all those kids.
I think you can pretty much draw a line in the sand where Brian Kelly took over is where this entire program really took a turn. And
really leading into him.
D'Antonio, sure. And I think you still have a step back when Tuberville took over, and we could have gotten completely lost in all of the madness that was the Tuberville era. But instead,
did you see that just popped up on?
I was talking. I didn't want to try and derail everything I was saying. But yeah, I mean, you had everything that was the Tuberville era, but just led into what has been Fickell's era. I think already is better than Brian Kelly, and I hope that that's not just recency bias. I just think that everything about the program feels better.
I would agree with that. I think part of for me, what makes it feel better now was what happened last year with Fickell turning down Michigan State. The program feels a little more solid, doesn't feel so much as a stepping stone. And look, don't get me wrong, I know that Marcus Freeman is out interviewing as he should, as he's earned to interview at some of these top flight programs. I mean, everybody wants that guy. But it still feels like a program that's still rising, and I think is in very capable hands. We got Fickell still here. I think Fickell will stay for. I mean, his kid just committed, right?
His name's not even really being mentioned with anybody right now. No. As opposed to Marcus Freeman, who, yes, you're bringing him up. He had the LSU interview. I believe he was in North Bend today, or he's at least taking an LSU
South Bend.
interview. Sorry, South Bend. North Bend is over there on the west side.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's going to visit Notre Dame. I'd hate, and I think I speak for all of Bearcat Nation, that I'd hate to see him go to Notre Dame, just with the way that Brian Kelly, left here so gracefully, just bouncing out in the middle of a banquet dinner and all. But
Right. Yeah. God, those player interviews. Ooh.
Marty was not happy.
also, let's not forget the fact that he killed a kid. I mean, just saying.
Yeah.
He was on the field, I guess, but okay.
He was on the scissor lift.
Shouldn't have been up there in a windstorm.
But I mean, I don't, and I don't think UC is capable of matching the money that Freeman could potentially get somewhere else. But I also don't know that it. I mean, was it the Bobby Carpenter tweet that you? I don't know. It was Bobby Carpenter that tweeted it out,
Carpenter
but he
was talking.
I don't know if he was on a podcast or if he was just on if he was just.
Do you have that audio, Ed?
Yep. 1 second.
You know, that's it'd be a huge step for Marcus to make. Play with him for a couple of years. You know, and he actually came in early, so I played with him almost 2.5 years and got a chance to come back in the off season and just good friends with the guy. I think I'm not saying that he wouldn't take the job. I watched Luke Fickell turn down $6 million this year to take the Michigan State job, and to stay at a Group of 5 school. They compensate those guys as well as they can, but they just don't have the resources. But I do know, Marcus's family is so close to the Fickells, his head coach. Like, you played for the guy, you've coached for him, and I don't know. Maybe he does take it, but there'd have to be a serious financial package of multi-year that would have to have some level of security, because when he's got 5 kids and he's got a whole deal. When you talk about moving around and you have a good life, and he's from the Dayton area, which is 20 minutes, 30 minutes away from Cincinnati. Like, there's a lot that goes into that, and you see people jump and make decisions all the time. I think Marcus is a great recruiter. I think he's a great defensive coach and is only going to get better. I don't see him taking that job unless all of a sudden the contract details come out and you raise both your eyes and your eyebrows furrow and you're like, wow, okay, well, I can see why you take that job now.
So to touch on that, that audio does come to us from at SXM College, which is college sports on Sirius XM. And that's Bobby Carpenter, former teammate of Marcus Freeman, where they both played under Fickell at Ohio State. So he's got some knowledge. What he didn't mention in that quick clip is the fact that during the lockdowns, Freeman's family, his whole family, stayed with Coach Fickell. That's a big deal.
Well, their house was being built, right?
Freeman's house. He just built a house. Yeah. Also a big deal. Why would you want to sell a house that you literally just had built? So, I mean, I don't think I'm grasping at straws here. He's even said things such as, like, you work where your butt is. And he's kind of alluded to the fact that you need to stay loyal to – these kids have to believe in something. You give somebody your word that you're going to be there, and they got to believe in something. So much in the same way that a lot of us tinker around on things like LinkedIn, it doesn't hurt to build your network and go out and make these connections and leave a damn good impression for when a school that may not be feeling real hot on one Brian Kelly, if you do go in under Brian Kelly, who's to say that you're even there after Brian Kelly's gone? And Notre Dame's going to start getting upset with Brian Kelly if he's not winning these big games at some point.
And I mean, to point out, LSU didn't have the greatest season this year.
Well,
and I don't think they're going to boot Ed Orgeron. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think that's going to happen.
That's not even bringing up the sexual issues that they had, which is why they were taking themselves out of the bowls when they
when they had like 3 or 4 win games. Well, they were going to be eligible only because this year they took off the number of wins you needed. They said that you just be in a bowl. Like,
that's on the NCAA for accepting that as.
Well, I think Arizona basketball just do that too?
I mean,
yes.
It's like the thing to get out ahead of the NCAA and show that you guys really mean that you learned something. No, I mean, all you're doing right now, especially during COVID seasons, is just kind of brushing it under the rug. I don't like this shit. I really, really don't like it.
I mean, I think my thing is, like, the NCAA said that they're not going to I mean, there's no like NCAA champion that they're going to crown in winter sports or in at least in fall sports. I think I read all the NCAA championships ended up being canceled. I think
outside of football.
Correct me if I'm wrong.
There will certainly be a football champion.
Right, but it's NCAA champion. I guess there's really never a true NCAA. It's a college football playoff champion, which is another whole issue. But
yes,
it's just.
Do you think we can do that with basketball this year? Like we should just self-impose sanctions. Like maybe Rap took a candy bar from the
I mean, I don't think you just invent sanctions. Like
no, you don't.
If you were looking at some like
it's a horrible thing.
If you were looking at some trouble, I mean, I'm not gonna say that. I mean, while I don't agree with it, I mean, if the NCAA is gonna take that and say like, oh, okay, like good job, like you might as well do it. Because everybody else is going to do it, and if they're going to honor it, then you just take advantage of it. Because
exactly, I mean,
otherwise you're going to end up waiting until you have like a chance at winning something, and then the NCAA is going to come in and be like, you got to pay the piper now.
I mean, you could have like Rick Pitino type issues.
I mean, you could be 2-7 at Kentucky or 2-6 at Kentucky.
Michigan State type issues with their horrible.
Speaking of Rick Pitino, I was listening to the Underdogs podcast this morning, and they had Mick Cronin on, and he made a comment that he thinks Rick Pitino is going to come back to a major school after 1 year at where is he at? Iota?
I don't know.
Iona.
It would surprise me one little bit. Not one little bit would that surprise me.
I don't know. Kentucky needs a coach, so maybe.
I mean, you had a trainer doing the worst possible things to student athletes at Michigan State, and no one lost their job.
True.
No one.
I think one person did.
Huh?
I think one person did.
The trainer.
Yeah.
I watched the documentary. I think the AD
became the scapegoat. Because you cannot tell me that some of these coaches didn't know that some of that stuff was going on. Get out of here. That might be the worst thing that's happened outside of Penn State.
Yeah. Oh, I mean,
there's no.
It's probably worse than Penn State.
I would no.
Ooh, we're talking kids.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. All right, you're right, kids.
Although I mean, like in all, I mean, like they didn't even really get.
I guess I don't want to get too far off of this. All I'm saying is, for LSU. I don't know that that's necessarily the best place you want to be either to hitch your wagon to that right now with everything going on down there.
I may also be wrong on these numbers, but I'm pretty sure they're accurate. The last two defensive coordinators at LSU made between like $2 and $2.5 million, whereas Marcus Freeman's making like $600,000 right now.
Well, and you have to consider that Fickle was making money like that prior to his most recent bump. That was all he was making.
Here it is. The president lost the job. The AD stepped down. I knew somebody.
So I don't know. I mean, I'm not trying to get it too derailed. So let's kind of bring it back here. But yes, for Freeman to be out there interviewing, that should be what he should be doing. That absolutely. I have no issue with that.
No, he's earned it. And if you know what, if he gets some gigantic contract to go somewhere and he decides that's where he wants to go and that's what is best for him, I'm not upset about it at all. I'm gonna be hurt as a fan.
Sure.
Like that's gonna happen. I'll be more sad, I think, than like I won't be angry at him.
No. Because he took a lot of thought into that decision making, right? Especially with policy development.
He's not touching on any of this as a stepping stone for him to get to where he wants to be either.
No. And he's made no secret that he wants to be a head coach. And like my whole argument, I've had this argument with not necessarily argument, but conversation with my brother-in-laws. Like we have a little sports group that we text back and forth in. But like, I think he can have a head coaching job from UC where he's at now.
Well, he would be the heir apparent. There's no.
Well, I mean that's obvious. I think. I mean, it's and maybe, I don't know, maybe it's one of those things where he banks on Fickle
Himself?
yeah, well, that too. I mean, he's already doubled down on himself, but
Well, I'm sure between him and Fickle, the conversations that they've had are, Fickle, sir, what are the jobs that you would leave for? That way I know what jobs, if they open up, that you would consider going to, so I can know if you're going to leave and I need to stay, or what kind of job stability we're looking at, or what kind of program stability we're looking at. So I know in back of my head if I need to be going somewhere now for a paycheck, or if I need to be and better opportunity. I mean, he's not going anywhere just for a paycheck. Let's be real.
right.
But also, I just want to know what your 5-year plan is, so I can thus develop my 5-year plan.
Correct.
I mean, if you're talking $2.5 million versus $600,000, Jesus Christ, you'd be foolish not to take $2.5 million. But if the stability is in there, if you're looking at, I don't know, maybe a season, 2 seasons, and they could blow the whole damn thing up. I mean, look at what Texas just did. Ended up being like, how much money in assistance did they just buy out?
A lot. It was a big number.
I think it ended up being like somewhere between $24 and $30 million when everything was said and done.
That's.
And the head coach is only making somewhere in the realm of 6 or 7 of that.
I know that was, and Joe over here in the comments saying that the Big 12 media rights expire soon. So yep, there it is. So if it's one of those things where they talk about, hey, we're gonna have some expansion coming on. Maybe there's already been some talk. I'm sure there's been some talk.
24 million. Thanks, Chad.
There we go. 24 million total. So you just kind of flush that down the drain.
15 for Herman on his multiple years, and 9 for the assistant. So yeah, I mean, that's a lot of money. That's a lot of money for assistants.
A whole lot of money. That obviously to see something like that, and then you think about what that UC is just not capable of, like, that kind of money. I mean, like they're literally capable of just being like, all right, here you go. Like, we're just gonna flush that one down and we're gonna go look for somebody else.
They don't want to. It's just not where the program's at by comparison to a school.
Right? No,
in the SEC, because of the money the SEC generates. LSU does have a national championship under their belt in the last 2 years.
I agree. Yeah, and a COVID season of lost money.
But then, and I'm not going to go into this too much, but I talked about it on a different podcast a couple weeks ago when there was a bunch of donors in the stands at. I was on for just a second, Jeff. But there was a bunch of donors in the stand at the UC game, and all the people on Twitter blew up like, "How you gonna let those folks in, but you won't let us in?" Well, you got to let those people in, because those are the people who are going to be giving you that extra money so that you can keep Luke Fickle, so let's not complain about that anymore.
They're called boosters, man.
Exactly. Buddy Garrity did whatever he wanted because he had a lot of money.
Buddy Garrity.
Texas forever.
I think he's an Alabama fan.
So moving on to the future of the program, though, I think we've beaten this dead horse into the ground.
Yep.
Some players have stepped away of note. James Wiggins is leaving the program. Jared Dokes is leaving the program. Other players of note: James Hudson becomes the second junior now. So we've had juniors in consecutive years. After Michael Warren became the first junior in program history to jump, I think Hudson will probably fare a little bit better than Michael Warren did last year.
James Hudson's also the first underclassman from UC to be invited to the Senior Bowl, I believe, as well. I saw that on Twitter.
There will be no Bengals coaches coaching him there.
We did see that.
So he should be safe.
So it was other players of note, though, that
James Smith.
Ethan Tuckey is stepping away. James Smith also stepping away, yes.
But there's another Australian punter already in the pipeline.
That's correct.
I'm not gonna lie.
Forget his name, and I'm sorry about that.
I did. Going back to the game, how about that play where where James Smith was punting and just damn near ran up to the line to actually punt? Like
the punt. That happened on like 3 occasions, including the one where he fake punted and ran for the first down. And then I don't know if anybody caught it, but he started the Conor McGregor walk on the sideline, but there were too many there were too many people in his way, and he got slowed down.
Who the fuck is this guy?
And I'm sure that's what Georgia was saying.
Can we start referring to it now as the Trevor Bauer walk?
No, we could. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Because you did see McGregor step away from the ring for entirely too long in what could be argued as the prime of his career. So I don't know. I'm glad he's coming back, or did he just come back this past weekend?
Did he fight this past week, or is it coming up?
I feel like I would have heard about it if he had.
Logan? One of the Paul brothers is trying to fight him.
No, he has an actual fight coming up.
It's a real legit fight against a real legit fighter, not a YouTuber. But
I'm gonna put this out here. I want to fight that Logan brother or Paul brother.
No, you don't.
No, you don't.
Yeah, I do. I do.
So the future, though, looks bright. We do have a very good recruiting class coming in next year
and the year after already.
So it's all looking up, regardless of what happens with Marcus Freeman. Obviously, we don't want to see him go, as you'd like to continue to develop that continuity. And you've seen what he can do with 3 stars. I'm very curious what he can do here with 4 stars.
The guy is a wizard.
Yeah.
I mean, it's amazing.
Moving on to a less easy topic to talk about.
I don't want to talk about it.
Again, I did say we brought the L's into 2021 because we were not super familiar with them, although this basketball team has been. Cincinnati basketball has been a struggle bus this season.
I just want to point out right now that Ed has a shit-eating grin on his face because he's been waiting for this topic for like 3 days.
Well, also because I was going to play a sound clip, but then I decided not to because it was going to throw you off.
So we made it to 2-6 in roughly it's one of the worst starts to a season that I can remember, at least in recent history. I think you got to go back to Cronin's early years. Correct me if I'm wrong there, Edward.
Well, Cronin's second year, and I'm trying to pull up the tweet from Justin. I saved it, and now my phone wants to stop working.
Justin Berg, Bergie Knights.
Yeah, it's stuck on a picture of Kenyon Martin. What happened here? Okay, so Justin tweeted that Brandon's second year, he went 2-6 so far on a 5-game winning streak with his worst loss. Streak. That's what I said. With his worst loss to number 100 USF at home. And Cronin's second year, he had a 4-7 start with a 5-game losing streak with his worst loss to the 204 Bowling Green at home. So a lot of people are like, well, the Big East is not the same as the American Athletic Conference. So I went ahead and pulled up some numbers here and put some names to those teams that Mick Cronin lost to. So in his first 5 games, he played Belmont, which was a loss, Western Carolina win, Bowling Green loss, Coastal Carolina win, Fairfield win, South Carolina upstate win, Fairfield High School. Yeah, he played them. Scrimmage. Then he went on a 5-game losing streak to Alabama, Birmingham, Illinois State, Xavier, Memphis, and North Carolina State, and then won against Miami of Ohio. So if you compare that to John Brennan's second year, that's what I said, Brennan.
You made it sound like the way that people spell it on the Twitter.
Oh, sorry.
Like Brennan.
So John Brannon, first win, Lipscomb, lost to Xavier, win against Furman, then went on to play Tennessee, South Florida, Georgia, Central Florida, and Tulsa, all for losses, which, by the way, Tennessee is ranked 12th, and Cronin's highest ranked win. Oh, I thought I had a number on that, but I don't. So saying that Mick Cronin had a better second year than John Brannon is, I don't think it's possible. And then if you also look at the roster, I pulled up the roster. That year he had Deontay Vaughn, John Williamson, who we met before, Rashad Bishop, Marvin Gentry, Larry Davis, Marcus Sykes, Anthony McCain. The list goes on. And then we have, John has Keith Williams, Jeremiah Davenport, a bunch of first year at UC players, and a bunch of freshmen.
Which would also be first year at UC.
Well, that's true, I guess. But
how many scholarships did Mick Cronin have?
I didn't look.
Scholarship players did he have?
I didn't look that up. I mean, that year with Deontay Vaughn was a scholarship player, right?
I would think.
Wait, was he a freshman that year?
So I would think
He was
Williamson.
sophomore.
I would
Sophomore?
think Vaughn, Williamson, Bishop. Those
Bishop.
guys for sure.
Bishop was a freshman, yeah.
In any case, I mean, where are you going with this, Jeff?
Where am I going with it?
As we filibuster for Ed trying to look
so-
this information up.
No,
That's all I have. I'm just saying that you cannot compare John Brannon's second year to Mick Cronin's second year and say that Mick Cronin had a better second year so far than John Brannon.
If you
I
go
think
back
you
to,
got to give the guy.
if you go
Go
back
ahead.
to last year, we won a share with Tulsa, mind you. So I'm a little less upset about that win, even though it was the first time they had won in Cincinnati since 1967, et cetera, et cetera. If you go back to last year, though, we won a conference that we were not supposed to win. I believe the highest that we were supposed to be was fourth. I think that was the highest that anybody ranked us, fourth.
I believe so.
And you had clearly some issues going on that I think, while they were never actually confirmed, I think everybody knows that there were some issues between Jaron and Coach.
Oh, I think
Brannon.
they've been confirmed recently.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Is like they've been confirmed without anybody coming out and saying that they've been confirmed, as he's all out here on his Instagram trying to say that John Brannon needs to go. So that all said, whereas you do have alumni like Nick Van Exel preaching patience.
Yeah.
Patience.
Which is what you'd hope to see from your alumni, especially one that played for the coach. But I guess that just wasn't his guy. In any case, it's
the credit that I'll give to Brannon, and I will say, I'll admit, there have been a couple times this season, and it may have been after several beverages, that I've been ready to boot him out and insert Ed as the head coach of the Cincinnati Bearcats.
Hard pass.
Solid.
But the reason that
triangle.
So the reason that
Yeah.
at this point I'm willing to let, and not that my opinion matters to anybody really at all, but I think you got to give Brannon some time to get his guys in. I mean, when he came into UC, let's face it, Cumberland was gone, right? I mean,
One foot out the door anyway.
So
yeah.
So he did, as far as we know from what we could see on the outside, he put a solid effort into retaining guys on the team, even though they didn't fit his play style and the game plans that he was wanting to put together.
Who's to say what that team with Jaron and Trey could have done if we actually had a March Madness last year?
Oh, absolutely. And you got Javen. I mean, Javen, the kid could hit a 3-pointer when you needed it.
A 3-throw.
For the most part, right? I mean, Brandon did a good job bringing guys back. I may be misremembering this, but they had their fair share of struggles last year, and then kind of put it together there at the end. And
obviously he's leaning into the portal for next season, as we haven't heard really a whisper even about any recruiting for next season.
That is worrisome.
I will agree.
Well, that's true.
That's worrisome at this point. I mean, you've got
yes and no. And
his portal picks haven't really worked out that great.
Well,
this year,
we can talk about that. You have last season, you had Javen, which I think worked out just fine.
I think it was a good.
Chris McNeil was maybe overhyped at who he was going to be for the program. When you see a kid that has been,
I would agree with that.
when you've seen a kid who's been with 4 different programs, I think that there was more to the eye than anybody was actually mentioning. He's played with 4 programs. That's crazy. You also had
A lot of alumni parties.
Chris Vogt, who worked out well in a system last year because he had a 4 who had the whole team on his back. Let's be completely honest.
Right?
Correct.
So we've seen what Chris Vogt is without a 4.
Who's in the league now, by the way?
Like official, or was he just on a 10-day and then he's gone?
I don't know if it was a 10-day, but he did get signed by Utah.
He was with the Jazz, and I think that was just for preseason. I don't think he's.
Oh,
actually,
okay.
I don't know that he's stuck on with the.
I can look it up.
So you had, I think those were the 3 last season, and then this year you had Rap, and that I don't.
And I'm going to include Vogt he's still a portal player.
He's still a portal player, sure,
and he's not good.
He's still with the program. We'll say that.
This is true.
As a starter, so we'll say that too.
And let me say, like, I think he could be better this year. He could.
Absolutely, he could be.
I mean, we've seen it before.
He was better last
year.
year.
He was getting better
when you had a good 4.
Fair enough.
You also have David DeJulius, who, if you watch the tape from the game against Tulsa, they were moving him off the ball quite a bit more than being the guy bringing the ball up as the true point. They were running a lot more Micah Adams-Woods, and I'm going to attribute that's all to Chad. I'm almost regurgitating everything that he said last night at this point. But Micah was bringing the ball up as the true point, and you also had Mikey Saunders doing the same as DeJulius was playing off the ball. And I think that that's where DeJulius honestly thrives more in the offense than trying to force a shot up as the guy coming up the court with the ball. I don't know that he's really quite distinguished how to be a true point as opposed to a 2, because I don't know that he knows what to do. I wonder if it just feels too much ISO-y for him. I don't know if that's a word or not, but I think you get what I'm saying. Where he doesn't know, am I supposed to pass here? If I shoot here, am I looking like the selfish player who's shooting? Like, we've all played 2K, right? You know, if you are the point guard and you're the guy bringing the ball up, you're like, I'm getting my 30. I'm getting my 30 right now. And in order to get my 30 to advance my career with 2K, I need to pop the shot. Like, I'm not worried about assists. So I wonder how much of that goes. I mean, this is me trying to translate it as best I know how to. How much?
No, I think you're right.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
just trying to figure out how to transition from being the guy bringing the ball up the court to passing it off, and maybe you get the rock back, maybe you don't. But if you're looking to improve your own statistics, if you're looking to improve your own numbers, and also try and maybe show that you're a leader on this team, as I think I feel like I've seen glimpses of him trying to be that guy. I just don't think it's quite there yet.
I was hoping he would be there at this point, because that's what I was looking at when we picked him up. I was looking at him to be like, I mean, not as good as Jacob Evans, but like the Jacob Evans where, you know, we could give him the ball and, you know, who's going to drive. We could count on him, right? That's what I was.
He's only like 17% from 3 right now.
Yeah. Somebody compared his statistics with Chris McNeil on
Berg did.
And they were it probably was. And they were eerily similar.
And we all know how the Chris McNeil experiment ended.
He did have, wasn't there one game where he popped off?
Yeah.
Early season, I think.
Early. With some drives, and I mean, he may have had double digits.
Well, and there were games last year too. I mean, if we want to talk about that, there were games last year where if we didn't have Vogt, we weren't winning those games. And now I feel like having Vogt, we're losing games because
I feel like he's a liability.
Liability, yeah. He works in what's that guy's name on Remember the Titans?
Couldn't tell you, but
Ryan Gosling.
Speaking of AAC basketball, and I saw it the other day that Caleb Mills from Houston was like taking some time. Well, he was taking some time for personal reasons, and then I think Chad tweeted out or retweeted and made the comment. that today he announced that he
He's
was
going to portal.
into the portal.
Well, and I think that I was going to say earlier when we were talking about the portal and we ended up on some other stuff. I think that while you say that it's concerning, and it absolutely is concerning that we don't have any recruits yet. That being said, I think you're going to see more kids because the NCAA got rid of the 1 year sit out. I think you're going to see more kids in the transfer portal this year than maybe ever before. And I think that that's a double-edged sword because you have on the one side of that, if you don't land with a team, who's to say that you're going to be playing anywhere if you're going to even be going to school? And I don't know.
So when you enter, like,
You can't come back.
But is basketball the same as like with football, where like Ben Bryant entered the transfer portal, but like he was still practicing with us and playing with going to games? But in basketball, don't you? I mean, I guess in basketball you probably
that's all up to the university.
Okay,
it's completely up to the university because they still have your scholarship at least that season, so they can allow you to use their facilities and try and recruit you to come back, or you can go. So,
but if you enter the transfer portal, then your scholarship they can give your scholarship to somebody else next year before you make a decision.
Correct.
If you're like hanging out there, nobody else offers you a scholarship, you can't just turn around and be like, "Well, I'm going to stay."
That's up to the university. But when you enter the transfer portal, other universities can contact you. That's what that allows. So, I mean, when you say that we don't have any recruits, yes, he's going to lean more into the transfer portal. Okay. So, yes, we haven't had – I won't say we've struck out on everything because I don't think we have. It's not been great. I will say that. But I don't think we struck out on everything. As you see, DeJulius is still, I think, figuring out this offense. I think Brandon's still trying to figure out DeJulius, to be completely honest. You have to consider also – with as many new additions as we had, and I know I'm talking out of both sides of my mouth when I say this because I've also harped on people for, every squad is going through this across the country, but you had a very different off season because you weren't able to practice together the same way that you normally are because of COVID. You had a very different beginning of the season because you have normally several cupcake games to get into your rhythm, get the flow of the team, get some guys out there, run some rotations that maybe you wouldn't have run otherwise, trying to figure out who this team is, gel your guys together, all of that. You didn't have that this year. Instead you were playing Xavier game 2?
Yeah. After they had played like 5 games, I think, at that point.
Right. And there's something to be said for that. What this team has to figure out how to do is close out games. And they don't have a guy that they can go to right now that is the alpha dog. I'm going to close out this game. I'm going to finish it. I want the ball in my hands. No one is that guy on this team right now.
That's the whole thing I was thinking Saturday, too. When we came back and tied it, I'm thinking, I don't know who we give the ball to close this game out. Like, I don't know who it's going to be who's going to step up and, make that drive. Last year it was Trey. Last year it was Cumberland. I don't know on this team, and I don't think John knows it either. He said this afternoon that he's getting closer.
I think Tari wants to be the guy. I think DeJulius wants to be the guy.
Tari
can't make a shot inside.
Right.
His mom went off on him on the Twitter.
She was going to go fly down there. Yeah.
I'm terrified of that woman.
Oh, I'm scared of her.
She is a scary lady. I'm glad she's our scary lady.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't get me wrong. I want to dap it up with her. I wish it wasn't COVID so I could be down there because I've met Michael Warren's mom. Loved me.
Did she ever like any of your tweets?
100%.
So you're best friends?
That was before I really paid much attention to my personal account, though, and I was sending everything for part of the punctuation.
Oh, yeah.
He liked some of our stuff on there.
Could you imagine if Tari's mom was here when JP Mercura was jabbing his gums?
I think you may have seen what happened in Detroit against Indiana once upon a time. in the NBA.
Atlas in the Palace.
I think you would have seen that happen, but the opposite. As she goes onto the court fighting JP Makira.
For
And
sure.
I would
can't-
love to find the security guard who would stop that woman from entering the court.
I've scrolled back a lot of tweets here. Now I can't find it. But somebody tweeted out that I guess basketball team got together and had a wiffle ball game.
Yeah, Justin Williams tweeted that today. The wiffle ball game.
Okay, it was Justin Williams. Good.
I did hear from some sources that they were for Christmas. They got together. A bunch of the guys got together in Indiana.
And that's the other thing that John Brandon said is that they don't get to go home to their. I'm actually going to read the quote from Justin's tweet. They don't get to go home to their family. I get to go home to Lisa and the kids. They don't. Not on weekends or days off. This bubble is real. Our guys are going back to the rooms more by themselves. It's more challenging, and that's true because in the past, on Twitter or Instagram,
Gabe Matson.
Yeah, that's why.
I mean,
that was what he.
That's writing on the wall, really. I mean, if you have issues of being alone, if you're an extrovert, especially right now during COVID and all this ridiculousness, I'm an extrovert. I'm going insane.
I agree.
Like legitimately going insane, where I want to be out hanging with people, drinking different beers at different breweries. I want to be dabbing it up with people. Like I want to be high-fiving all the people around me at the different games that I have season tickets to.
People that you don't even know.
Correct.
Right?
Exactly.
And none of us are able to do that.
Oh.
And it's
Well,
maddening and it's frustrating, especially
Jeff
for extroverts right now. Because if for introverts, this is your holy grail. You have found the motherland. But for people who need to be around the energy and feel the other people and make new friends and just it's so hard every day.
Yes.
There was a I need to start writing these things down. There was a former player that tweeted that was like, right now would be the moment that Fifth Third would be rocking, and
Meacham.
There we go. And no, he's right. He's like, right now it was like towards the
off of that. Yes, absolutely.
Right. And somebody was like, well, if they can't, if they're not going to be able to do it without the fans, like they need to be able to do it without the fans. And it's like, that's not really how sports work.
No.
We've all been in a situation, whether it be sports, whether it be, I feel like at least many of us have been in a situation where when the lights go on, your game face is on, and it's completely different than what you did in practice, what you did in your driveway, what you did in your bedroom in front of a mirror. When the lights go on and the spotlight is on you, and I speak to that as somebody who's performed on stage. I speak to that as somebody who's performed on a field. I sacked an NFL quarterback.
Stop.
Flag football, baby. I sacked an NFL quarterback.
Oh, jeez.
Ed, you were there.
I know. And then they told you to put pads on, and I had to step in because I was going to put pads on.
My greater point, though, is when the lights go down and
Tyler Sheehan,
you have fans, you have people that you're playing in front of, you have people that that you feed off that energy. You really
I agree. When it gets to the end of the game and you're playing Tulsa at home and it's close, that little extra from especially from the student section going bonkers.
Yep.
And I'm telling you right now, the foul that got called at the end of the game, and I know everybody, you know what I'm talking about.
When he fell backwards.
I mean, that was worse than the Kentucky player that had to be resuscitated on the field.
So it's different in basketball than in football, not having the fans there, because the fans in basketball
are right on top of you.
Well, they upset the sight lines. It is a clear backboard. And when you have all of this going on, like the arms flailing, incredible flailing arm man and what have you happening behind you,
all the big heads,
all the big
fat heads,
all the screaming, the whatever, like that's all happening in your sight lines when you're shooting free throws, when you're trying to take a shot, when you're, I mean, that can't be. They brought it up multiple times in things that I've listened to in regards to the NBA playing in their bubble. because there were no, like, players had talked about it like out loud in interviews that there were no issues with the sight lines. They literally I think it was a black backdrop. So
Yeah, there were. I don't even think there were seats back there.
no issues. And the screens
yeah.
the screens were on the side.
Sideline.
If I remember correctly. Like they were all on the sideline where the virtual fans were coming in. So there were no interrupted sight lines whatsoever. So you're playing behind a black backdrop on a gray or white rim, whatever color they have it. Yeah, of course. You're not going to have any issues with sight lines. Same thing goes when you're playing in a home crowd. And from what I've seen, and I don't know that I'm wrong, no one's actually sitting in either end behind the hoops. Like
I haven't seen anybody.
Even the people that are there are not sitting there. They're sitting on the sides generally, like socially distanced. So you're having uninterrupted sight lines. And that's got to be significantly different for basketball than football.
I think at UC the cheerleaders are in those student sections.
Oh, I mean, they're still like 10.
What's that going to do exactly? I'm watching the Missouri and Mississippi State game right now, and I don't see anybody in those sections. So,
I mean, you just don't have that mass of kids
Chaos.
back there, and like I said, holding the big fat heads, holding the wavy arm guy, like, you know, just causing general mayhem behind the hoop.
it's just a different season, and I know a lot of people don't like it, like us, saying, "Oh, it's the COVID season," but I mean, it is, and there's schools like Kentucky and that are losing, and that kind of stuff that just backs it up. It's not just UC. Duke
lost to like two. Like, let me look who it was.
Didn't their coach come out like after the fourth game of the season say, "You know what? Maybe
they lost 2 out of conference games," and he was like, "Well, maybe we shouldn't play any out of conference games.
We shouldn't be doing this right now."
Like, I don't think that's your issue.
How are they going to work this tournament?
It's going to be amazing
in Indianapolis.
I'm going.
I think it's going to be a shit show.
Ed, can you get us press pass?
I'll try. I'll see what happens. I mean, I got one for TBT. I think they'll make it work. If TBT made it work, then the NCAA has to make it work, right?
I mean,
but
here's what's crazy, though.
I think that would involve no one there.
I mean, yeah, I don't think you're going to be able to have. Well,
I don't even know if they'll let family in at that point.
Well, here's the thing: is like you're not going to be able to have. I mean, how do you? I guess you could issue players' families like certain cards to get, like, tickets to get in, to have like that. I mean, it would have to be very organized because you're going to have to get them in.
How'd you tell a kid that they can't talk to their family though if they're there to visit them for the tournament? And so then, do you have to test the parents? Because I think this is all going to become a mess.
So the thing is you have to have. So like, my son is playing basketball right now, right? So his games, they are, and granted, these are 7-year-old kids, and they're playing in a very small gym, but that's to say, those games in a very tiny gym, each player is allowed 1 spectator. That doesn't mean mom and all your brothers. It means 1 spectator. And I'm coaching it, like I'm coaching the team, so I count as my kid's spectator. So like his mom, nobody else can go watch, right? And there's a half an hour between games so that they can sanitize the entire gym. So if you're going to have this tournament in two facilities with 4 courts, I think is what it is coming down to. If you're going to let families in, then you're going to have the time between where you're going to have to go in and sanitize the entire place, right?
Bonkers.
And then you're gonna have to sanitize the locker rooms before the next team can come in to get ready.
We've all been to places where we've gone to sit down to eat, and we've all been like, maybe if you haven't gone to sit down, I'm even just pick up food,
right?
Like, this ain't clean. Even just going to the gas station.
Oh, the keypads at like different stores right now. When the pandemic started, they were clean. Now they are getting gross again.
And that's my point. Everyone's a little bit lax right now.
Yep.
because we
You
all
used to walk
have
into Kroger and there'd be somebody there wiping down every cart. Now they have a bottle for a bottle that you have to pick up
for yourself to use, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Use click list, Ed.
Well,
Everyone's got a little bit pandemic fatigue, and I just wonder if there's going to be pandemic fatigue with this tournament being.
And here's the other thing, though, is like maybe when the tournament rolls around, maybe by that point, the vaccine is out a little bit more for that colleges are getting it, and I don't know how you pick how you tell
listening to
regular folks that they don't get it and college athletes get it. I don't.
Listening to Coach's show last week, and I did a tweet by tweet as far as like anything that he said. He did say that all the guys, when they travel, they stay on one floor. And so I'm assuming they're chaperones, essentially, like to make sure that you're not going anywhere. So you also have them going to pick up their meals in a box from wherever they're getting it. I'm assuming also from the hotel. So I'd assume that you'd also have that same situation-ish going on with everybody, and you're not going out to eat anywhere. You're not. I honestly don't think you actually would be able to see your family. So I don't know that they would actually. Yeah. I don't think they'd invite family or tell them that they can see their family. Like, you can have your family come here, but they have no admission, and you can't, because how would the NCAA even be?
I mean, here's the thing: is even
test all these families,
even with, say, no fans, right? If you're bringing 64 teams to one city, that's got to be like the largest gathering, one of the largest gatherings of people from across the country, literally.
Let's be generous here in how many people represent the program when you travel, and we'll say 25, because you got roughly 15 players ish, and then
okay, 10, plus medical staff.
10, I would think 10, maybe 15 staff.
I can't. I mean, are they gonna let the cheer and dance teams come with them?
No,
I don't believe that. So let's say you got 40 people traveling with the team, times. We're at this point, we're now at 66 teams, correct? Because of the play-ins.
Yep.
That's 2,640 people that you have to worry about. And if somebody can't play, if they test positive or false positive or something like that, what do? It's an automatic forfeit, I would think, because you can't afford.
It would have to be. There's not enough
wiggle room.
You could, because you couldn't push that game. You couldn't push that.
Finding that out real quick.
The Browns, yep.
Real quick.
I mean,
it's a mess. It's all a mess. I want to go back. I want to go back to a simpler time before people ate bats.
Yeah. I mean, hopefully, by some miracle, by that point, we've got some. I mean, the other thing is currently the only vaccines available are a 2-part.
Pfizer.
I mean, you get Pfizer and Moderna, and it's a one shot, and then like 4 weeks later, you get the second shot.
I don't even want to get into a conversation on vaccines, to be completely honest.
Well, I know. I'm just saying, like, time wise,
exactly.
When you're pushing the time as far as like getting it out and getting people quote unquote vaccinated and safe, whatever that is anymore. You just the time's just not there, so it's gonna have to be one of these things like you're saying, where like these kids are gonna again be traveling and be in a bubble and not have contact with anybody but their teammates. Well, and I would assume in the gym.
I'd assume that most of the kids that are playing, and I think, I don't know, maybe this is a gross assumption. I don't know, but I would think that most of the kids are extroverts because they love the spotlight. They love to be around people. They love the what it brings, because they make basketball shots. You know what I mean? Like the basketball spotlight is something to be heralded.
Yeah,
I mean, sure. We all dreamed about it as kids. Let's be honest.
I wasn't very good at basketball.
Shocker.
I was great.
You're a baseball guy.
You got weak ankles, buddy. I'm sorry. Weak ankles.
Fine.
Did you say I have weak ankles?
No, that was Aaron. Aaron said that.
I never said you had weak ankles.
One time. Ed.
Your wife doesn't let you play sports anymore.
My wife doesn't let me talk to Ed anymore.
I don't know. So moving on, baseball. There's nothing to report as the Reds haven't done anything. I think the only thing that we might actually report here is the fact that Didi Gregorius is still giving out Reds merchandise to charities. That's a thing. That's a thing that he is still doing. He still has a charity here in Cincinnati, apparently, or at least is giving out Reds merchandise to his charities that he is.
I did see a thing about that.
See, Ed's laughing like I made it up.
No, I saw it.
I think it was like, didn't he like sent some like care packages or something to like Children's Hospital and.
Yeah, I think he was doing some stuff here in the city, and that's kind of cool considering he's a name that's being mentioned coming back as the Reds had Zach Cozart here for I don't know, like I feel like it was only about 3 years anyway, but it was too much to move him here.
He had a donkey.
I was gonna say he had a donkey.
I'm glad you said donkey and just not donk because that would have made everything real weird.
It would have been real weird, yeah.
Real weird.
Yeah, it would have been weird. But I mean, with the Reds, I just really hope that it's not this another year of like
Did free
are we
agency?
Are we rebuilding or are we going for it or are we like standing pat and hoping
No one
that
knows because nobody's made really a big splash move at this point.
except for the Padres.
Well, they're winning right now of all the offseason, but I feel like they're also the only ones doing anything.
Right?
Kirk Casale is going to be Buster Posey's backup. I did see that today.
I mean, you've got like the Cubs who are just like shedding money left and right.
Shitting money is actually
No, they're shedding it. I
just getting rid of all of it.
Like poor Yu Darvish. I mean, well, not poor. I mean, he's going out
he's going to a great team. That's a fantastic situation.
But he was
for
like
for a guy that the Cubs 2 seasons ago wanted to punch in the face for his contract.
I mean, he
bounce back year. Maybe he's an introvert thriving in this new.
That could be the case, but he legitimately, from like the little interview he gave and the little talk he gave after he was legitimately caught off guard that he got traded.
He was a Cy Young candidate. Of course he was caught off guard.
Right?
Why wouldn't you want to bring that back?
And now the Padres have
Where's Kyle Schwarber going to play, and who's going to say when he comes up to bat against the Reds that he's from Middletown?
He's actually coming to the Reds.
That is the best I've seen on Twitter in the last.
Are you talking about the MLB The Show thing?
I caught that at like 1:00 in the morning the other night.
I'm still mad at you.
And didn't share it.
You guys
shared it.
I had to wait a full 24 hours later for Aaron to find it and send it to me.
I downloaded it. I was going to post it later, but I forgot. But that was.
If you don't know, there is somebody took the time, and I guarantee you, it took a while.
He did tweet afterwards that it was worth staying up all night to make.
Between load times and restarts and trying to just get it all figured out to where it was the exact game time situation of Nick Castellanos up to bat against who are we playing? I don't even remember who.
Kansas City.
Kansas City. Yes, Kansas City. Because that was apparently the reference that Tom said claimed that he was making. Where they linked it all up to the exact same gameplay where Castellanos hits a home run to left field to everything that Tom said as he took off the headphones for the very last time for the Cincinnati Reds in his apology while continuing to make the call.
And that's professional.
That's a drive to left field.
Right.
So that was hilarious to come out this week. Well done on who. These are the things that I don't know how I haven't already thought of them.
Right.
That's a good point.
But like, then if you thought of it, do you really feel like that you have the dedication to like sit there in front of MLB The Show? And
I think you don't know what my life looks like right now.
He's reporting the podcast from his laundry room right now, so he might have some time.
Moving on, talking about the Bengals. So the Bengals finished the season. They for the first time in a very, very long time, over a decade, they lost their last game of the season at home.
Yeah, but they beat the Steelers.
They did beat the
They
Steelers.
lost their last game of the season at home for the first time in over a decade. That was the stat I was giving. They
That's a
did,
shame.
yes, they did win against the Steelers in prime time on Monday night, and they never do any of those three things.
With the
much less all
greatest
of them at
quarterback
once.
performance of all time.
No,
He was smiling the entire game.
even as he was being
Bottom
sacked.
of the pile, smiling.
Even when he got absolutely annihilated.
Yakums.
He popped back up. I mean, it should have been a penalty, but he was still smiling.
I don't remember who said it, but somebody was like, "I don't know if you're smiling or if you're in pain, but you did a great job." It may have been Pat.
Somebody took
All
that
of the
picture.
above.
Somebody took the picture of him on the ground with all of the entirety of both the Bengals and the Steelers. I feel like we're all on top of him, where like somehow like somebody got a camera shot of him with a giant smile on his face, and he was like, I think he had just gotten like a 3-yard run for first down or quarterback sneak, whatever, and it said like when you're at work or when you're not happy at work, but you know you've got 5 days off coming up.
Somebody had to get that tattooed.
What?
Like somebody in I don't know where. I know I saw it on Twitter somewhere, and I don't know if they've actually gotten the tattoo yet. But they did make a bet that if the Bengals beat the Steelers in primetime on Monday night against that Steelers team and that Bengals team, which no one saw that coming, must be all the way real.
No,
they had to get a tattoo
Of what?
of whatever the person who won the
Chose.
bet chose, and they chose that picture of him laying on the ground sideways with that shit-eating grin on his face.
That's awesome. Well,
I
mean, think about the kid from Cleveland that came down here and chugged a can of Skyline chili. And as much as I love Skyline chili, because I really do, I don't know that I can drink a cold can of Skyline chili.
No shot. Maybe he used that old age trick where you pop the cigarette lighter on, because I don't even know if new cars even have cigarette lighters anymore. I think they have they have the spot where you can plug in a jack, but they don't actually have the cigarette lighters.
You think he heated a whole can?
Maybe he heated it up. I saw it happen in Goofy movie. It's got to be real, right?
It's like Goofy movie when they were going to see Powerline.
And then think about this. Then think about this: a 4-hour drive back to Cleveland when you just chugged a can of Skyline chili.
It became
There's no way you're
6-hour drive because he had to stop twice at 2 different rest areas to shit out that whole can of Skyline.
Oh,
and then
God.
Gold Star tweeted him upset that he didn't stop and visit them.
Of course, Gold Star was upset about them.
I mean, it was the middle of the night.
They're also the official sponsor of the Cincinnati Bengals.
That's a good point.
Well, that's too bad.
I would probably do that. I would probably chug a can of Skyline chili if we get a good interview.
Not 9 though, because then you'd puke.
I don't know if you can make it through a can, Ed.
I could.
I've heard that confidence before.
It's different. I think it's different.
Well, he'd have to eat it very slowly with a small spoon.
Get out of here.
Oh,
as he cut his conies with a fork and knife, like Mike Greenberg would eat pizza.
No, I did not cut any conies with a fork and knife. I ate those by hand. If it wasn't for the audio issues, I would have been a lot faster.
I never saw video. I don't believe it. I think he just took video of the conies themselves.
It's on YouTube.
I think
it's on YouTube.
I think you ate it with a fork and knife.
Get out of here.
It lives forever on YouTube.
I'm not ever taking it down, so.
All right. So do you guys have questions, or are we moving on from the questions?
I don't have any questions.
I would have had questions, but I was told that questions weren't allowed this week.
All right. Well, we'll be better for that then. I did
I'm third.
So I can ask. I at least had 2 questions. It's fine. So how was Christmas different this year for you guys?
I got to stay at home. I didn't have to rush around to different families. That was kind of nice.
It was a lot smaller on my side. On my wife's side, it was still. I mean, we still got together. But my mother-in-law watches my kids, and so we're all kind of around each other anyway, due to just the way life is. So, but on my side, we was much smaller. It's just my mom and dad and us, and kind of made it work. Like,
For the first time in my life, I sat at home by myself on New Year's Eve. Didn't go to church, didn't do family, didn't we traditionally open all of our gifts as a family New Year's Eve, or I'm sorry, Christmas Eve. And that didn't happen this year. And it was real sad.
did you do a Zoom call at least, or like anything like that? Like,
No, honestly, God, I'd laid in bed and watched movies all day by myself.
Aaron.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is the worst rounding third we've ever had.
And then Christmas Day, we didn't do anything either. We celebrated the following Sunday as a family.
Yeah.
And that was good. But it was COVID changed my entire life, man. So
COVID's great.
So it sucked.
Yeah, it's it didn't really feel like, I mean, like Christmas. Like, we did kind of like the best to like,
not at all.
we did kind of the best to make it feel like Christmas, like for the kids.
Sure.
But like, and hopefully, you know, as they get older, it's not something that they like. It's
Well, I
all
hope
that
that's
year
what
sucked or
everybody
anything.
who's listening got to do too, especially if they had kids. I don't have kids.
Right, but
You know, I'm going, you know, I'm post COVID divorce, and it was just different for me this year. Like, I'm not trying to make anybody feel bad for me or anything like that. It was just different.
Yeah.
Hit me different. Like, not fun. But you know, it is what it is. But what are you most excited about for 2021?
Reds baseball. I really am excited for Reds baseball, only because regardless, like for me, I mean, obviously I'm a huge Reds fan. We all are, but baseball's kind of my thing. I'm just excited to hopefully be able to get back into the ballpark, even if it's on a limited basis. There's so many more games that the baseball season encompasses. I feel like there's more of a chance. I really kind of wanted to get. I was hoping that I could get down to a Bengals game with my son, with my oldest, even though, you know, they weren't the greatest team this year. But I still thought it would be probably the best time to take a 7-year-old to a Bengals game is when there's like very limited.
There to cuss out.
Right, exactly. Because I remember what it was like when we had season tickets, and I like my wife and I, when we first got together, she had season tickets. What's that?
I'm sorry.
Oh yeah.
For me and everyone like me.
We went through, we had a lot of fun. We did a lot of tailgating and things like that. But I distinctly remember when we weren't even married yet. We went, and I said, "There's no way that I would ever bring a kid down here to a football game." And like, my dad took me to football games when I was younger, and I don't remember it being like the same way.
I think you've had this conversation on the podcast before.
We may have. There's no way that I would ever do that. And I was kind of hoping this year it just didn't work out with when the games were here and whatnot. But anyway, I'm just excited to hopefully be able to get back into the stadium, buy $100 hot dog. And I know we talked about that on the first Reds roundtable that we did back in the spring, but I literally
get your condiments worth. I get it.
I will take my stimulus check. My $600 stimulus check down to the stadium so that I can buy a dog and a beer and sit socially distant by myself. Maybe I'll take my kids, but I mean, that's really what I'm looking forward to. I'm kind of hoping that there's some bit of normalcy that comes back to our life. I know it's probably never gonna get back to necessarily the same. The way a lot of things appear to be heading, I think it'll be a while. It's not, you know, this quick turnaround thing that everybody was kind of hoping it would be, I think.
I'm going to flip that on you. I'll tell you what I'm not looking forward to is when the rules and things like that start laxing again. And they are not, and they're not letting limited amount of people in at places like Kings Island and the zoo. Because going to the zoo right now with the limited amount and the people, like, you have to have a certain time slot. It's great, dude. It's not packed. You get to see some freaking animals. Like, you're not standing in line to see Fiona for 30 minutes. just to see her fart on the glass and then
I've
swim
never
away.
stood in line to see Fiona.
Well, neither have I, but I'm just saying, like, that kind of stuff I might miss.
I don't.
Yeah.
I don't know that you ever went to the zoo before Fiona was born. Apparently,
I did. You know what else I miss from the shutdown is how empty the highways were.
That I will agree with that.
I could get from Loveland to Fairfield pretty quickly. It was great.
So what I am looking forward to most in 2021, sports related, is Cincinnati football.
Yeah.
I think that the blueprint has been established, and the fact that Fickle's name really isn't coming up in a whole lot of conversation right now, that's a beautiful thing. I think that he's made his point well known at this point, and I think that the university has made him feel appreciated enough that he's not going anywhere, at least this year. And until that elusive Notre Dame or Ohio State job opens up, I don't know that he's going anywhere anytime soon anyway.
Oh,
That being said, the other stuff that I'm looking forward to is 2020 was the worst year of my life, 100%. Between COVID, losing a job, and losing a life that I had established and all that. Glad that that's behind me, in the rear view. Very appreciative. I know you guys like to tease me, make fun of me, whatever, and I don't care. But it's been super cool to have an opportunity to do not just this, because this is where it all started for me, doing the Pardon the Punctuation podcast and all of that, but also getting to write on a weekly basis for Bearcat Journal and getting to develop a podcast and a following there as well. It's been kind of bittersweet, especially with my dad gone. Just some different things there, but looking forward to what 2021 brings.
For sure.
So, do you have a beer in your fridge, Ed, or?
Oh, I have one right here. Yeah.
What are you drinking today? Do you have the?
It is now time for everyone's favorite segment. What is in Ed's fridge? So the one time that I did get out of the house this year and went to a place, we went to Braxton and got one of those igloos for Michelle's birthday.
I saw that.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
I saw you put that out.
So I picked up this gingerbread stout. It's from Braxton Labs, where they test, all kinds of different beers. They got a huge selection there. I mean, they don't sponsor the show or anything, but if they want to, that's cool. But they have a huge selection there in Covington, wherever they're at, of different types of beers. Like they had a sweet potato beer, which I wasn't going to try that, but this gingerbread, yeah, I know, right? When we had that Geta beer, it wasn't horrible, but this gingerbread stout is delicious. I just want everybody to know. It
wasn't even the worst that we had, and it was still terrible.
I think the Geta beer was the worst that we had.
That was not
8.2. Stout with ginger, cinnamon, vanilla, and lactose. It's from their dessert series, which I think is also where this was.
So my cousin, when I was in Florida, he dipped a snickerdoodle in a gingerbread stout,
which tastes delicious.
He left it just sink in there and marinate flavors between the cookie and the beer. He said his beer tasted better than he had ever had before, and the cookie tasted better.
I mean, it sounds delicious. I would do it.
Just saying.
Let me bring this up real quick, and this is a little off topic, but not totally, since we're just firing off some questions here. Thoughts on the Barstool Fund?
They're doing more for local or for small businesses than the U.S. government is.
That legitimized Barstool more than anything they ever did.
Yeah,
you have Tom Brady coming at him saying, "I'll throw money at you. I'm in all the way." Scott Van Pelt said, "Hey, $20K, I got you." Whenever
there have been two $1 million donations that were publicized. I don't know. Guy Fieri went on. I think he was on like Fox News today or yesterday, and boosted it up there. You know, he had a fund at the beginning, I guess, that was aimed solely at restaurant workers. Obviously, I mean that's kind of his thing. And this one,
Well, especially small business.
right, and then you've got this Barstool fund where, honestly, if you are having a bad day, and you want to cut some onions and have some happy tears, go watch. Go to the Barstool Fund Twitter, which I think is just at Barstool Fund. I don't know if Ed can double check that for me or not, but literally they're posting the videos of that from the businesses that they pick, like their submission videos, so you can watch their stories, and it's heart-wrenching watching some of the, like, there's one that's like a brewery that's been around since like 1886. It was a recent one today. That, you know, they're like 7 generations in and are looking at a very uncertain future.
Yeah.
Right. And then the very next video that they share with it is Portnoy calling.
Yeah.
To tell these people, we're here, we're going to make sure that you make it onto the other side of this thing. And obviously, like, they can't help everyone. Like, they just can't. I mean, there's a finite amount of money. I think they're up over like 18 or 19 million now. But it's incredible. I mean, and like Ed said, I mean, they're literally doing more for small businesses than they're doing more for small businesses than the government. They're doing more for small businesses than some of these crazy rich people. Like, I mean, you've got to think some of these people that could, you know, throw money at it.
I think it's a very calculated move by Barstool. I think.
Well,
I mean, everything's going to have to be a business move, but I also think that
it's so golden, though.
That's
really
some, like,
it comes from a good place.
It does, and yeah, it's gonna endear Barstool forever to the American people. Not that Barstool
and they have not had a ton of great publicity.
No,
to their history. Let's be honest.
Outside of, you know, I mean, they started kind of as this like frat boy sports, like, you know, goofy thing, and they continue that. I mean, you look at Riggs playing golf and doing these kinds of things out there, and like, but what they put together and what they're able to do for these businesses is incredible. There's a bar in DC that put out a video where he's like, look, my bar's doing okay, like, I'm going to make it through this as of right now. So every Wednesday, I am donating, like, they do like a happy hour, like a $20 open bar. You just come in and you know, $20 you drink. Where he's like, look, I'm going to donate all that liquor, all that beer, whatever it is that's in their open bar that night. And when you come in, instead of paying me $20, you can open the Barstool Fund app, make a $20 donation to the Barstool Fund, and that's your payment for, you know, the open bar.
What I like about that, as opposed to what Taft did.
Oh, jeez.
What happened?
Taft Brewery, where they ran a fundraiser for their employees and kept it for Taft Brewery.
It did a GoFundMe.
Didn't give it to their employees. So I like that they make the patrons actually open the app and pay the charity of choice.
He was like, I don't want the money to come to me.
But that
you make the thing
that alleviates everyone from coming back and saying you kept the money or anything like that.
Right.
As opposed to Taft Breweries, who kept the money, closed shop. These people have no idea where their December funds, January funds are coming from, because they kept the money that was donated to them on the face value that it was going to go to the employees.
Yeah. The fund is great too, but during the initial lockdown, when Dave was going on live for like 2 hours opening
boxes, it was the greatest thing ever.
I mean, I'm stuck in my house, right? So I'm just watching Dave on Instagram for 2 hours opening boxes of goldfish and samurai swords and T-shirts
and
weapons.
He was getting like pizzas sent to him, like frozen pizzas, and like
not from Tony's Pizza, but
Not
yeah,
from Tony's. Tony's
Cincinnati
didn't.
did get him a pizza.
I think-
Yeah.
Someone from Cincinnati sent him a frozen pizza.
I think somebody did.
I
But
remember
I mean,
that.
I don't
I
know
haven't-
who it was.
I'm not a huge fan of Barstool. I'm not a huge fan of Dave Portnoy. I think he's out there, and I mean, it's all show, right? But whatever. But yeah, no, you're right. They have done a lot for, I guess, everybody through the pandemic, which is
I think they're up over 100 businesses right now that they've funded out of this this fund, and it's literally only getting bigger, which is incredible.
So as we talk about tearjerkers, I kind of want to transition to this, where my bum of the week. Go ahead and play that audio, Ed.
Cause you're training like a damn bum, you know that? Bum. A bum. You are a bum! You're a bum! And that's all you'll ever be! A bum!
Well, that hurts, man.
So my bum of the week this week is whoever let it go through ESPN. Dan Lebitard had to go.
Oh, I thought you were talking something else.
Because I was literally tears in my eyes. None ever hit my cheeks. I sucked them back in, apparently. Watching Dan Lebitard's goodbye video with his dad, and those of you who have listened long enough know that I got some dad issues since my dad passed. But watching all that, it hit really close to home for me, and it was a show that I've listened to pretty much every year or every episode for the last like 4 or 5 years. That one hit me, and I hate to see Dan Lebitard go. And I mean, it was.
I've never been a listener of his show. I see. So he's leaving ESPN. Is he going to do something independently or anything?
They've already released new podcasts today independently.
Him and his dad.
Well, him and his dad did Highly Questionable. That was
Right.
the show that they did together.
I didn't know if his dad was gonna jump in with it.
His dad had never really been on his show outside of like just random phone calls and what have you.
Yeah.
At least over the past few years. And that was more for comedic value than anything. But
Yeah.
it was the fact that he and his dad had done Highly Questionable for a decade together, and they had just randos on with them, and they grew this family. And it was kind of like, knowing what we're trying to do here as we, bring you in, we bring Clay in and into our umbrella. It's kind of like the same thing, but the other end of it, where you've been brought in, but you're being pushed out. So we're on the other side of it, where we're trying to grow, and we're trying to do some things, and they reach the pinnacle, and they're being pushed out because of just who knows what reason. To be completely honest, they haven't really publicized a whole lot.
I was gonna say I was kind of surprised when I saw that pop up on. I think it was your retweet that I saw that. I clicked and watched the video, and it was.
That was it was like 6 minutes to the saddest music I think I've ever heard. And I'm literally sitting there trying to get my oil changed at Honda. And I'm sitting there in the waiting room. And I'm like, got my mask on, got my hat on. No one can see, right? I'm not tearing up. No, you're crying. I'm not crying. Get out of here.
Right.
It was tough, man.
They're using onion oil.
It was tough. You guys got any bum of the weeks?
On a happier note, I think the bum of the week for me is myself. Because I bought in on Sunday night to all this rumor that Zach Taylor could possibly gone. And then Monday morning, Mike Brown basically said to me, this is what you wanted, to deal with it. So
is that on you, or is that on Mike Brown?
I think it's on me for just getting my hopes up like usual. Also, I was also going to say that Nick Saban's daughter is also a bum. Or claiming that OSU was cracking COVID because they didn't want to play. She apologized?
She did apologize.
She's not a bum anymore, I guess. It's just me. I'm the bum.
But your audio was cutting out because I was talking over you. So say what she did again.
She tweeted that Ohio State was claiming COVID cases because they were afraid to play Alabama, or wanted the time to be extended so their quarterback could JT, whatever his name is, could recover from his little injury during the game.
Is that a thing? Did I miss something like big? Is that game postponed?
It's not postponed, but Ohio State is apparently dealing with some COVID stuff. But I did read a tweet that said they will be prepared to play.
A thing that just developed since we've been recording. Dr. Dre suffered a brain aneurysm.
I saw
that before we started recording. I saw that too. Yeah.
2021 sucks already. No. So my bum of the week is Philadelphia Eagles head coach Doug Peterson.
Yeah, he's bummed.
My number 2. I swear to God, that was my number 2. But when Dan Le Batard was going, I couldn't get away from Dan Le Batard. I get it, but what are you doing?
That was killing Jason Kelce. You know, Jason Kelce only wants to win, and to sit there and see that his coach is throwing the game, Jason Kelce probably wanted to rip somebody's head off.
Well, there was a thing that came out today that there were players on the sideline that had to be held back.
Yep.
Because they were like,
Jason Kelce was one of those players.
Had to be
with a horse head on.
Probably, but him and the quarterback and somebody else sat on the bench in the rain after the game, just talking. I mean, I think it's the last time we're going to see Jason Kelce play for Philadelphia.
I mean,
that's almost a Justin Harris move, though. The kid from Cincinnati who.
Oh yeah, that was Milton's dad tweeted that out.
Yeah,
snapped a picture of Justin Harris standing in the end zone, watching Georgia take the Peach Bowl trophy, and
player to do it.
And
to our knowledge, anyway.
Yeah. I mean, that's
what Milton. Yeah, tell me that celebration's not going to run in his head all off season while he's in the gym pumping weights.
And he's a backup cornerback, you know, and who knows what he sees next year. Let's be honest.
Sure. We don't know yet because Des hasn't said anything yet.
That has nothing to do with quarterback. He's a backup cornerback.
Yeah, DB.
My bad.
But yeah, but Doug Peterson, just I mean that goes back into what we've said before about like if you're gonna own like a sports team, like you own it to try and win championships and not just to like try and make money or whatever.
Well,
like
take yourself back a step though. The owner of the Eagles, do you know who the owner of the Eagles is?
What the heck is his name? I can't remember. It's
look it up.
He's the previous owner of the Marlins, Jeffrey Loria.
Yes.
Oh, jeez.
So that shouldn't surprise you.
No,
I mean
for a team that traded away. They traded away. You're gonna have to help me with names right now because I've been drinking a whole bottle of champagne. But they traded away the outfielder for the Yankees.
They traded everybody away.
They traded everybody, yeah.
Giancarlo?
Yeah, Giancarlo Stanton. They traded away the outfielder for the Milwaukee Brewers.
Oh, I can't think of his name. Yeah.
The one who hits home
I get what you're saying though, but this is on a totally other level.
They've imploded every time they've put something together because they didn't want to pay anybody.
This is a totally but this tank was to move up. If you win, I think they said like if they won, like the Eagles jump back to like number 9.
It was also the biggest FU to the Giants that the Giants have ever gotten in their entire life.
Eli, man, this is why we don't like you guys.
I mean, it's just unbelievable that you take out.
Fletcher Cox said, "We don't like you either."
Yeah, I thought too.
I don't get it. Like, you can never make it make sense to me, and that's why he's my bum of the week.
It's a good bum.
Maybe the bum of the year, and it's early.
Brewers outfielder.
I didn't look it up. It was gonna take too long.
No, you just look at Brewers home runs. Christian Yelich. That quick.
By the way, I retweeted those videos from the Barstool Fund that Jeff was talking about.
Yeah, I mean, just go watch them, grab some tissues, but they will make you happy at the end.
Still know that it was as hard for me as it was watching Dan and his dad say goodbye.
Watch them. Because a lot of them are, like old guys who have owned the bar, and it's like their kids like, hey, we need to do this to try and keep this place from imploding. And their dad's like, no, we're just going to fight through it. No, we should probably try and reach out. And then they reach out and then they get it and they get a call from Dave and they're like bawling their eyes out. And it's like, he's like,
It's the most genuine you've seen Dave ever, probably.
Yeah.
I mean, the only other time you've seen him is opening packages while usually high on some kind of drug.
Or eating pizza.
And eating pizza.
Oh.
So, cool. All right. Well, for Jeff and for Ed, I am Aaron. We tried to get this thing back to a normal format with the bring back of the questions-ish and the bring back of the what's in Ed's fridge, the bring back of the bum of the week. We'll look and see what we're going to do for the coming year, 2021, as we just try and get the best podcast out for you that we can do. But for the first podcast of this year, 2021, post JC, we out.
Peace.